that's the lesson that you take from this. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on someone.
When it comes down to it, it's a very difficult sport.
I enjoy the people that are here.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Welcome to Community Closeup. I'm Joe Nelson. This month we'll show you how a school nutrition director is getting kids interested in cooking at home. While fallen service members are being remembered this month, we take a look at a problem facing veterans right here in Coon Rapids. And we take a look into the dual life of a Coon Rapids man who does paperwork by day and pile driving by night. But first, this month marks the 50th anniversary of one of the most devastating set of storms the state has ever seen. On May 6, 1965, 6 tornadoes swept through Minnesota, killing 13 people, injuring 683 and damaging thousands of homes. A half-century later, survivors hope younger generations will learn the same lessons they did living through the storm.
Just hope nothing like that happens again.
Record-setting blizzards and flooding pounded Anoka County in the early months of 1965. On May 6th, Barney Buss of Fridley says he could tell something else was on its way. He had plans to pick up his son from school.
I can't explain what kept me home.
That day, it was in the 70s. It was really humid, unusual for early May, and they were having snow in Sioux Falls. So you had that big contrast.
Tornadoes, along with their warnings, came quickly.
10 after 7, we heard the sirens go on.
And this was the first time that the air raid sirens had been put in place to protect us from atomic raids from other countries.
And many of the people I spoke to thought we were being bombed by Russia because it was back in the Cold War, and they heard the sirens and they're going, oh my God, what's going on, you know? So then they went in the basements, which was really a good thing.
The Coon Rapids acting police chief at the time, Jerry Nelson, who said we knew something was going to happen. The weather was so bad, so we were all on edge waiting for it to happen.
And I saw smoke, and I told her, hit the basement. Then we realized that the smoke that we saw was probably the funnel picking up all the debris and everything and coming down.
A tornado ripped through Barney's neighborhood, taking homes with it. When the wall stopped shaking, Barney went outside to look at what was left.
When I was across the street helping the neighbor clean up the glass, we still had our radio, a little portable radio, and we learned that another tornado was on the way. So she called me home, and I went home at the time. And pretty soon we saw it coming, so we went down to the basement and just waited for it. And when it came, the pressure dropped so much that it is much more than I had experienced on any aircraft that I've, dealing with a pressure difference. And
Some of the kids started to cry.
it was hurting the kids' ears.
Barney and Ardella Buss, along with their own children and neighborhood kids who were there to play, sat in the basement waiting to see how long the roof would remain overhead.
There a lot of, pounding and creaking. And
The second tornado passed, leaving the Buss home nearly untouched. Others weren't so lucky.
The other neighbors started gathering around, and we were really the only livable house, I think, in the block. Yeah. And so we just had the people in, and the next day, as I said, she was cooking for the families in shift. Okay, your turn to come in and eat, and so she was busy, and of course we were had a freezer full of stuff, so we had enough. We had a gas stove, which allowed us to cook instead of electric.
While the Buss family was offering neighbors food, many more needed shelter.
The Fridley Trailer Park on 73rd and Central, that was hit 3 times that night.
I was in a trailer in Fridley Terrace, and I grabbed my 2 little girls and tried to stay on the floor, and then the refrigerator came over on top of us. They said another one was touching down. Somebody took my other little girl, and then my baby and I ran to a house, and we were there until we came here.
A third of the city of Spring Lake Park, a third of the houses in that community were either gone, flattened, or severely damaged. In Fridley, much larger community, but they lost a quarter of their homes that were damaged or destroyed.
I didn't think it was near as bad as what it was until it was over, and I looked outside and saw trailers next to me, over on top of the trailers next to them.
Current Anoka Historical Society program manager Vicki Wendell remembers seeing the damage as a child in her relative's neighborhood and went on to learn the great impact the Twisters had.
But it's not just the houses. You don't have electricity. All your utility lines and things are down for the people who actually do still have a house. You can't go to the store and buy something because 2 shopping centers in Fridley, they're gone. They're not there anymore. Gas stations, it's gone. You can't go buy something. The kids can't go to school because 2 of the schools took huge hits.
Alan Taylor experienced the storm as a 5-year-old boy in Mora, inspiring him to research and write 2 books on the tornadoes. Officially, the tornadoes killed 13 people that day, but Taylor says injuries from the storms led to about 90 more deaths within the next year.
Supposedly there were 683 injuries, but far more occurred than that. For the reason they go to the hospital, there's 100 people in line, well, let's go back home.
With Fridley's Unity Hospital still under construction, many filled Mercy Hospital of Coon Rapids and others nearby.
No hospital is ever prepared to take that many injured people at a time, but Mercy Hospital took as many as they could.
I'm from the West, you see, and I don't know much about these things, and so then I put the car in. I don't know why, because the garage fell in on it, but then I went down the basement, and I don't know how to describe it. I guess you could say confusion.
After seeing the destruction left in the EF4 tornado's paths, Barney and Ardella were grateful to find a few broken windows and no electricity in their home.
Every house around us had to have a new roof. We didn't. Just a few shingles replaced. As I say, good Lord was watching out for us, I think.
Say we were okay, just, helping our neighbors was about all we could do.
But after the dark clouds passed, brighter days were ahead. The Red Cross, Salvation Army, and even Vice President Hubert Humphrey came to offer aid.
People help people, and when they crawl out of the rubble, a lot of them would stand and look around and they'd go, well, it could have been worse. They have no house, they have no car, but yeah, it could have been worse. That typical Minnesota bravado, and I think that just highlights it, that's a human spirit that we have kept here.
The wind died, but the effects of the tornado lived on.
The worst part of the storms was how many came through. The odds of a tornado hitting in an area is astronomical, but to have 3 come through virtually in the same path is unbelievable. So a lot of people were crawling out of the debris, and you're in shock, and then here comes another one, and then here comes one more. So by the end of the night, they were scarred for life.
For years after, my cousins, who were little kids, were terrified. If it got cloudy and kind of dark, those kids were in the basement. They did not come out.
That was something I hope we never have to go through again, but when you hear of all the bad storms this year, it's kind of scary.
Those who lived through the storm also learned from it.
I think we respect the weather when we hear that there could be a tornado.
We know that we should take the necessary precautions, and I think since then we've gotten a weather radio so that we can keep track of all the storms in the area.
I was very aware of the weather as a kid because I was always taught to respect it, and this proved why.
I think people really need to have a plan. They need to be watchful, and when it does happen again, it will happen again. But when it does, people need to be prepared, and they need to get to shelter.
Exhibits on the tornadoes are on display here at the Anoka County Historical Society and at the Minnesota Historical Society in St. Paul. Still to come, find out why veterans say one of their largest groups could soon disappear. Stay with us.
The 2015 4th of July celebration is moving from Sand Creek Park to Coon Rapids Boulevard. Enjoy rides, games, bingo, and music on the grounds of the Coon Rapids Ice Center. Watch the parade along Mississippi Boulevard. For complete details, visit coonrapidsmn.gov.
May 25th is Memorial Day, a time to remember the sacrifices made by our fallen service members. But many veterans still living in the area say their continued service often goes unnoticed. The Coon Rapids VFW Post 9625 was started by World War II veterans more than 60 years ago.
They were the big part of this post, and they're the ones, they built this post with their own two hands. It was all volunteer labor. They had a contractor who ran the job, but most of this work inside and out was done by volunteer help.
Veterans of other foreign wars made their way to the post on Coon Rapids Boulevard, but many didn't find it quickly when their time in the service ended.
In fact, I don't think I even knew about the VFW when I was in the service. My father wasn't a member at that time. I was about 40 years old, I think, and I was looking for something to do, to talk to other guys that had been in their service, that type of thing. And I had two guys come out to my house and explain what the VFW did, and kind of got interested in it.
Actually, I joined initially right after I got out because there was a VFW within a block and a half where I was living at the time. But then I moved on, and so I didn't keep up with that and let everything lapse. And then I rejoined 25 years ago, 1990.
Vietnam vets like Marv Repke and Robert Fawcett have taken over posts throughout the country, but they say the younger generation of veterans has been more hesitant to join and take on active roles.
I really thought it was just old-timers talking about war stories.
Shane Fields served in the Marines during Desert Storm and was deployed in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia for more than a year before coming home in 1994. He says he transitioned well back into civilian life, working and spending time with his family, and put memories of combat behind him.
I just kind of buried the whole experience and never thought about it.
But he says he reconnected with other veterans after stopping by the VFW one day.
I actually wandered into the VFW, and one of the members said, are you a member? And I said, no, I wasn't. And so he goes, do you want to become a member? And I says, I'm like, well, I didn't really care either way. And I said, sure, I'll do it.
Shane says he played an inactive role until realizing what the post does to help veterans and the community.
You're helping the community, and it's a way of going to a place that people know who you are, and it's more of a family than it's more family oriented.
Repke and Fawcett say Shane's story is not unique and that many don't realize how the VFW allows veterans to serve their community long after they leave the service.
The VFW itself does a lot for veterans, to make sure veterans aren't forgotten.
We've taken, drive people to their doctor appointments. We take them grocery shopping. We plow out their driveway, shovel their sidewalks.
They say much of what they do goes unnoticed.
The VFW itself, we don't do a lot for advertising. We don't tell the people how much we do. Even the city of Coon Rapids, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of people that understand what we've done for the city. We've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're kind of, in the background.
It's just something we want to do, and it's, we're not here to bring attention to ourselves,
But they're also going unnoticed by potential new members. Fawcett says at its peak, VFWs in Minnesota had 82,000 members and are at half that today.
A lot of that's attrition, a lot of it's World War II vets are dying. Right now, I think the average is 750 veterans a day that pass away. The majority of them now are Vietnam veterans. Most of the World War II veterans have already gone, and the Vietnam veterans are in that age group. Korean veterans as well.
We had the hard economic times there back in about, a few years ago, and that hurt. And people dropped, and our membership kind of was dying out here too.
And most of the guys on the Honor Guard are our age. So it gets tougher for them to get out and do things. If we had some younger members, that wouldn't be the same, we wouldn't have the same problems.
The Coon Rapids post has dwindled from 1,000 down to 732 to date, with less than 100 younger vets from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
They're not coming in, and they're not active at all. They don't seem to tie with this place. They don't do it. And that's what I'm trying. I've been trying to talk to these guys, and trying to get them interested that this is as much their place as anybody else's. So.
I think a lot of it has to do with the times. I think people's free time is really spent now. I think things are going way fast. Back in our day, I guess, you worked your 40 hours, stores were closed on weekends, you had more time. And nowadays, I think everything just runs together.
If current trends continue, many members don't see the VFW marching on much longer.
I'm working, because I'm working hard here trying to get this post up and looking good and trying to attract the new members. So that hurts. But that's the way I think is what's going to happen.
Fawcett agrees, but hopes a more peaceful world will close down the club.
I would assume at some point it'll just go away. The idea of the veteran is to help people that come back from combat, veterans that have problems. If the wars end, there won't be a VFW. And we're hoping someday that could happen. It's not like that's ever going to happen, but that's what we're shooting for.
But this post isn't ready to surrender.
You're either going to let it go quietly or you're going to go fight against it and try to see if you can save it. My opinion is try to save it.
We set up programs. There is a veterans room up at Anoka Ramsey, trying to get the information out. And I know some of our members have gone to other places we know that there are veterans.
With many vets attending Anoka Ramsey Community College, Repke says the younger vets are in the community.
Which I wish they would realize this place is just as much for them as we are for them. So
clubs in general have gone down in my generation. We don't do clubs. We don't do group things like we used, like the old generations did.
And with up to 20% of veterans returning with post-traumatic stress disorder, those who have been through it say coming together at a place like this can make things better.
We understand what they're going through. We know what they've gone through. We've all been there ourselves. Though back in my days, this PTSD wasn't, diagnosed at all. We had, and Vietnam vets had just as much, if not more, of the same problems as what they got now.
I think having that brotherhood is a very important piece, and I think that's the piece that would help a lot of the stress levels, I think the suicide.
This is not owned by a national organization or a state organization. It is owned by the members here. It is their post. They have all the say in the world they want to do. I'm trying to get them to learn that so they can come in there and know that they are a vital part of this post. They got a lot of say in it. It's not, we come in there and nobody's going to listen to us. No, we'll listen to you.
It wasn't something I felt like I was missing, but then when I got involved, I felt like I was glad I did.
For more information on what members do and how to join, go to CoonRapidsVFW.com or stop by the post here on Coon Rapids Boulevard. Next on Community Close-Up, we'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to become a pro wrestler coming up.
Oh, hi. I'm TV's Howie Shapiro. And when I'm not announcing CTN sports broadcasts with my sidekick Joe Yen, and watching all the other great programs on the CTN Studios YouTube page. There's news stories, great local events, and even full games. You can even watch on any smart device with a YouTube app. Whether that's your phone or a tablet, you can watch CTN's great programming wherever and whenever you want. You can even watch CTN's event coverage live. So no matter where you are, you can share in all the excitement. CTN Studios, building community through cable.
The banquet hall here at the VFW is used for hundreds of events each year, but what may be their loudest crowd came here to boo and cheer their favorite Minnesota Extreme wrestlers last month. Dave Bell, a veteran in the ring, shared why it takes more than muscles to make it.
Just times were a little rough, so I decided to come up here.
After spending most of his life just outside of Chicago, Dave Belser moved to Minnesota to lend a hand to his sister, nieces, and mother, who moved here about 5 years ago.
As you get older, you want to keep your family a little bit closer. You want to draw them in. You want to bring them in, and that was really my ultimate goal coming up here.
He and his family now live in Coon Rapids. Dave says he's enjoyed the ride from first working in a warehouse to now ensuring exports follow federal guidelines. But it wasn't a dream job growing up.
Nobody envisions doing what I'm doing here. It's not something you're a little kid and go, I'm going to be a customs broker and freight forwarder. When I go up, it's kind of like saying I'm going to be an insurance salesman. Who wants to do that?
My appearance, I'm pretty much a full-blown cowboy. I remember even when I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher asked me, what do you want to be when you get older? What do you want to do with your life? I want to be a pro wrestler. And, oh, you can't make a living doing that. And, no, I can't make a living doing this. I realized that as I got older, and I've been doing this a lot longer. But what I do realize is I can't have fun doing it.
I'm in the mood to kick some butt! You want to see us kick some butt?
Known as Dave Bell, a member of the Outlawed Saints, the Clint Eastwood-inspired cowboy travels to places like the Coon Rapids VFW and auditoriums throughout the state to grapple goons and body slam bad guys.
When I'm in there and I'm getting beat down and I'm sucking wind because I'm getting beat down, I hear that crowd start getting louder and louder and louder, and I start getting that adrenaline rush going. And I get out there and I fire up and I fire back and I start beating back at the guy, and it makes a difference.
Dave learned the ropes at a wrestling school in Illinois, and after gaining experience on the mat, he started training others.
Every guy I wrestle, I sit him down after the match and I say, okay, this is what you did that was good, this is what you did that needs work, and this is what I expect from you the next time we walk out there. So, even though we're going out there and we're competing against one another, my job is still to make sure that they do it properly.
He says that training, along with some good luck, have kept him healthy over the past 2 decades.
I've never hurt a guy in the ring. I've never been hurt. I've never been to a doctor because of a wrestling match, not one. And any guy that I've trained, when I've trained them, they've never gotten hurt, due to my training. It looks like us just beating the hell out of one another. We're actually working together. You have to put your health and safety in another person's hands. If a guy says, okay, I'm going to pick you up, press you over my head, and I'm going to spin you and body slam you down, it's like, okay, do I trust you to do that?
Dave, with his experience, it's been invaluable. He has helped me put together my skill set a lot better. Obviously, we have fun, we have a great time. It's entertainment, of course. But out here, we don't like each other at all. Like, I legitimately, honestly, do not like him.
More uncomfortable than a chokehold has been revealing his alter ego to those who only know him as Dave Belser.
I hardly talk about it unless someone asks me, hey, what are you doing for the weekend? And I tell them, well, hey, I got a show. And they're like, what do you mean you got a show? Are you in a band? And I go, no, I do pro wrestling. And they look at me like, wow, really? And then all the questions come.
Dave says a long career in wrestling requires the proper priorities.
I tell people all the time who are looking to get into wrestling, if you're looking to make money, get out and stop now, because it's not going to happen.
Most guys, they have ambitions of trying to make it to WWE, and I've been wrestling for almost 18 years now, and I'm kind of past that stage. I go out there now, and my main focus, my main goal is to, try to make memories.
He gets the crowd going, and he's an awesome wrestler.
At the end of the night when I raise my hand, even if I lost and I raise my hand, if the crowd cheers me, I'm happy. I did my job. I was the good guy that they cheered and loved.
And with each match, Dave remembers what it was like growing up as a fan, and he does more than just tip his hat to the crowd.
You know, when I was a kid and I used to go to those WWF shows, I used to go there and I would sit in the crowd and I go, man, what I would give to just get called into the ring and be able to see what it's like to be in that ring. And it never happened.
He is constantly on top of the crowd, and that's the key, because it's not about me, it's not about him, it's about them.
When I see the kids out there and I see a kid get really excited and he gets an opportunity to get in the ring, I'm like, okay, I get to pick one. And I get to let him live a little bit of get that excitement of seeing what it's like to actually be inside the ring, to see that it's not all padded and foamed and that there's real, you know, steel and wood underneath, and, you know, to see how hard the ground is that we're falling on, you know, and, you know, they get in there and they get to be a part of the show and the fans start cheering for them. It makes them feel special. And that kid's probably going to go home and the rest of this weekend and next week, and he's going to tell all his friends at school about it, and that's why I do it.
Dave says he plans on building a training center for wrestling in Coon Rapids and says anyone interested in getting into it should contact him through his Facebook page. Still to come, how a school nutrition director is getting kids in the kitchen and encouraging reading and healthy eating at home. Stay with us.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Thanks for watching Community Close-Up. We'll leave you with the story of District 11's nutrition director, encouraging kids to cook, read, and share one page at a time. I'm Joe Nelson. We'll see you next month.
Did you wash your hands?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Leah Anklam says her 3 children have shared an interest in cooking throughout their young lives.
They've always grown up, you know, being around food, being in the kitchen. And yeah, she, especially my oldest, has shown a lot of interest in baking, and now that she's getting older can do it on her own just because we've taught her as she's been growing up. And now my little guy, he gets upset if I bake something. If he comes home from school and I made something, he gets upset that he's not there to help me out.
Mixing, rolling, and measuring stirred up excitement for 8-year-old Madeline. Her friend Allie shared the same interest and a story written by her father.
When I first saw it, my friend was giving it out at this camp called Cupcake Club Camp. So I was like, really? She's giving out a book? And I'm like, wow.
My goal in this was to help teach that next generation how to cook and make it exciting for them at an early age, but also make it approachable for parents.
Noah Atlas decided to write the story of Chef Ella and her famous cupcakes after his oldest daughter started watching cooking shows.
She was mimicking it, and so we thought we'd start baking with her, and it was very cute, and we thought that it would make a good book. You know, this adventures of a little girl making, you know, baking in the kitchen and making things with her parents.
Chef Ella, named after Noah's oldest daughter and drawn to resemble his youngest, decides to make cupcakes to share for her friend's birthday.
That is a very nice thing to do for a friend, but you'll need to make enough cupcakes for everyone, said Chef Ella's mother. Chef Ella agreed.
It teaches kids and parents the value of putting in effort and presses safety and cleaning up after messes.
Chef Ella had squeezed the egg so hard that it exploded everywhere.
It also shares the importance of washing our hands and encourages young chefs to use alternate ingredients to allow for some creativity.
If you don't have the right ingredient, it's good to know how to try different things so you don't have to throw away what you were making.
The thing, you know, for me is really a moderate diet, to try to eat a little bit of everything instead of trying to say I can't have this or I can't have that. It was really more about, can I make a few changes in the recipes or in the foods that people eat and teach them how to cook with whole foods, which is really what's more healthy in the first place.
The culinary school graduate is in his first year as Anoka Hennepin School's child nutrition director, helping decide what meals are offered to thousands of students each day. The menu also has to follow strict regulations and stay within budget.
It is what it is, and we're trying to work the best we can and find, you know, foods that kids like to eat.
Noah says he hopes Chef Ella will inspire more kids and families to take an interest in cooking, and he's had a positive response so far.
The nice thing is that I've heard is that the kids want to pretend to be Chef Ella, and that's great to hear. It turns into every other kid's book, and that's great because it brings a topic to them that they might not normally, you know, have had seen until they needed to cook for themselves.
It's written geared towards a kid, so you know a 9-year-old can pick it up and read it and know what all the words mean. And I also think it's cool that he does use words that are used in a kitchen, like what is a sous chef.
I just thought the book was kind of fun, and I wanted to make their secret recipe for cupcakes maybe sometime. I want to kind of like make up more foods and put it into a restaurant so people can enjoy it.